question here for you, Mr. Abdullah. You've seen the examples that we've put. I'll take this example, for example, removal of nail, and you get in a price list. Some providers, they have removal of nail with X price on it. The technical direction that we have heard from Eileen is that you have to be more specific because you have different type of codes in the CCHI billing system. One for toenail, one for fingernail, as you can see, different codes. So it means one code, one price are going to become now 4 codes. But should the provider also price 4 times? Because as you know, it might be more complicated to remove a fingernail from a toenail, for example, or certain cases might require different type of cost and a different type of medical skill that will reflect on cost. So should the provider go and, let's say, break his price into 4 different prices and send those to the insurance company, or he has to stick to one price only and one code only?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ayham, and also thank you, Irene, for the clarification. However, as in CCHI, we will not interfere directly with the kind of pricing, but however, we encourage the provider when they do the pricing to make sure that whatever that they will do it in their current price list or master charge list is to be reflected in CCHI billing system in a way that it will be reflected the current pricing system. However, when they will do it, they should do it in a way that should be reported to the insurance company that show the insurance company, especially when it comes to the existing contract between the insurance company and the provider themselves, that this kind of procedures or services, this is a cross-abundance CCHI system code with their prices. So we are in CCHI encouraging to do that for one, for the new CCHI system, despite that the agreements with the provider, how the pricing that should be.
Okay, so basically it is left for the payer and the provider to agree on this.
Yes.
Okay, but I think that from a data quality point of view, I think providers are encouraged to utilize more and more codes to be more specific, because when you collect data and you receive data saying removal of nail, is less specific when you get exactly what has been done. So it's a removal of a toenail or a fingernail. I'm again using this example.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dr. Ayham, but eventually that it will be in the commercial agreement between the provider and the payer. However, that's true that the provider should have their own pricing based on costing and understanding this is kind of procedure and this is how it costs them. But when it comes to the negotiation between them and the provider and the payer, it's up to them. It's commercial agreement.
Understand. This is very clear. Thank you, Mr. Abdullah. Since we're talking about pricing, I'm gonna also get your thoughts on this, Noura. I know, for example, one of the areas in the that might impact price, which has been changed in the CCHI billing system to from ACHI, the original ACHI, is the more introduction of bilateral, unilateral, all of those kind of changes that does impact price. So can we get your thoughts and some examples from your side?
Of course, Dr. Ayham. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us today. For unilateral and bilateral services, I have a very simple example for reconstruction of knee ligament. Most of the providers just have it there, and they price it based on that. For example, this is an inpatient stay for 3 days, and the price for this particular procedure is 18,500. Now, with the CCHI, the system codes are being presented to the market. They have presented the concept of bilateral and unilateral in order for us to try to be more specific and more accurate when we are reporting back any services that is being given to any patient. So in this case, the same code, the same description needs to be mapped to 2 different codes, one for unilateral and one for bilateral. Now, going back to the pricing of these services, we need to price it in a way that it will be approved by the insurance company, and at the same time, it will not have a negative impact on our revenue as a provider. So based on that, we need to put our strategy in and do the pricing accordingly. Some providers, it's not very clear for us how they are, what kind of price is it linked to. We don't know whether the 18,500, for example, is for unilateral or bilateral. So there should be two prices assigned to each of these services. Either we will take the unilateral and price it for 9,000 dirhams, riyals, sorry, for example, and the bilateral for 18. Or else, if the provider meant that the 18,000 will be for the unilateral, then the price for unilateral should be the 18,000 and the bilateral should be doubled. Or it doesn't have to be doubled, but at least 70% more from pricing perspective.
Okay, so moving on, and I think there is this question that we're getting, similar discussion, one-to-many. I have one code only, like we have seen the fingernail example or the hernia example. I have one code only, the CCHI has multiple codes. And how do I map them? And I think the idea here is for everybody to take a note that it's the mapping as such, and this is my personal opinion based on experience working on this transformation in other healthcare systems. Mapping is never going to be accurate 100%. I think the right way, I think you and me agree, the right way is to reprice, actually, is to go back and take the new system altogether and reprice it completely, looking at what kind of services you are providing, how it is reflected there, and look at your cost. Of course, this is theoretical because we all know that we cannot reprice just like this and go through again with the whole discussion with the insurance and stop our business. We have to map initially and try to, like Mr. Abdullah said, try to figure out the commercial relation with the insurance to ensure the business is continuing. But I think it's very important to understand that one-to-many does not mean that I have to map one code to many. I think it means more of me mapping one code, taking that code and re-looking at the whole new codes and try to use them and price them accordingly, similar to what we just have discussed. So we've received questions on one-to-many. I receive questions on this all the time. You get a lot of questions on this. Tell me what your thoughts are here.
Actually, we are facing some examples in the market in Saudi where the provider is linking two procedures or two different services together under one code. And they put the price to these services as a package sometimes, or as a procedure that has both of the components. Now, with the CCHI being there and the systems, the billing system is being there, now we have to break down these. And therefore, we are mapping one code to many codes. Sometimes I put here this example here is we are mapping one code to only two. In some cases, we might map one code to many, like up to 5 or 10. It depends on the procedure and it depends on the component of this procedure. For example, here we have the excision of cyst and bone graft. We have these are two different services as per the CCHI billing system. So we have to build this one service into two different codes, one for bone graft and one for excision of lesion of bone. The length of stay for this service as per the hospital when we were working with them is 4 days. And the price for it is 25,000 Saudi riyals. Now, the provider needs to identify the cost of each procedure, the complexity of each procedure, and needs to reprice these services based on the new coding that he is following. So instead of having these two services under 25,000 riyals, we need to have maybe the bone graft might have the 15,000 and the excision of lesion might have 10,000. It depends on my cost as a provider and on the complexity of the procedure. So therefore we map one code and we break it down to different codes based on this.
Okay, all right. This is, I think, clear. Probably, basically, we're talking here about the complexity and relooking at how we are going to do each procedure separately. Again, I want to maybe repeat, this is more like not mapping, but more like taking the services we are doing, but representing it completely differently in the CCHI. I think we've got another example here on when to make.
Yes, here also the provider has the arthrodesis of the hip. You can see that the provider have different parts of the body under one code. Therefore, we have also to break it down to the components of this procedure. Each part of the body should have its own code and its own price. So based on that, we have break it down to orthodesis of a knee and orthodesis of the hip. This scenario also, again, the complexity of the surgery might vary based on the anatomical location, and the pricing should be performed differently based on the change that we are putting in place here in our price list as a provider. The cost, the complexity, again, needs to be taken into consideration.
Okay, so basically, I think there is, from the examples we're seeing, we see that the market was more working on more of a general kind of a description of the service they are doing, regardless of specificity of the service, whether it is in certain location or in taking into consideration the complexity that is being required to do it. And now we are more trying to move towards more specific reporting of data, and which will eventually be reflecting at differentiation in cost. And I think it's important to mention here that cost doesn't mean always that cost will go up. Actually, if we break down the codes, some of those codes might require actually less price. So if the price here is 40,000, maybe if we take break the procedure, some of them will be less than 40. So just to ensure that there is, and the impact on insurance is not going to be always negative or positive, whether we look at it from insurance or provider. At the end of the day, it's just a matter of reflecting the actual cost of the provider without any inflation of price, and paying the provider against the service they have performed. So
exactly. Actually, sorry.
Please, sorry.
Yeah. Our recommendation always to our providers in this case is to have net impact, zero impact when they are changing their prices. Therefore, we should try as a provider to put our prices again together in a way that it will not have a positive impact or a negative impact actually on the insurance companies, and at the same time it won't have a negative impact on me as a provider. So I need to have a nil impact as much as possible. I know in some cases it won't be applicable, but in most cases it will be. And based on that, I will not have to negotiate a lot with the insurance company to get my prices agreed with them. And at the same time, I will not have a negative impact on my revenue as a provider to lose revenue when I'm moving from my internal codes to the CCHIDS.
Yeah. Okay. So you try to keep your impact nil to just make sure that you're moving to the new platform and ensuring your relationship with the insurance company. But I think it's fair to say that it's not always an easy task, and especially if the provider has identified areas where they are, let's say, below cost for certain procedures. I think a provider might want to go and negotiate that. We've heard from Mr. Abdullah saying that this is left between the payer and the provider. We know it's not easy, but I think this particular area might also involve a need for negotiation in certain areas.